I'm very fortunate. Like, logistics is the best business in the world, global logistics especially, because you're like, we see the flow of the goods and like, how does every company work? People hire Flexport to move products around the world and move inventory. Businesses, you don't want to have to deal with all those different vendors. You just hire Flexport and we execute the transaction end to end. We have reasonable confidence that tariffs are going to be high and probably higher than they are today on goods coming from China. The tariffs are going to have a real impact. Certain companies will fail. You're seeing companies get hit with, like, in some cases, a 50% increase in their duty.
Like who? Welcome to Grit. I'm Juven, partner at Kleiner Perkins, a show where we go beyond the highlight reel and explore the personal and professional challenges of building history-making companies. Today we have Ryan Peterson, CEO and founder of Flexport, a company he started in 2013 to modernize global trade, one in which he left about 6 to 9 months ago, and then rejoined to go and take over global logistics, working with over 10,000 companies and moving billions of dollars of merchandise across 145 different countries. Enjoy the episode. What's up, man?
Good. What's up? How are you?
Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. So what's your role here?
So I come from startups and company building. So I have a team of operating partners across sales, marketing, finance, engineering, product, and we actually go and help our companies build their companies. Yeah. By the way, you know my cousin, who's like my little brother, Amin?
He is? Oh, he's the man.
He's my first cousin.
Dude,
he's like my little brother.
He's the man.
I grew up with him.
He's awesome. I love him. I probably worked closely with him, closest with him.
You did.
Because he's in there every day.
Yeah.
Me and him were grinding.
Yeah, he loves you too. And he's
awesome.
me and Peterson would be at the office late.
Yeah.
And then he's like, at some point it turned into like, Ryan's like grinding on Flexport, like late.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, he's back on the saddle.
Yeah. He and I were working harder. I like venture. I loved meeting all the smart people and like seeing the world through that lens. I am not convinced that more effort leads to better results. I like to work really hard. And I don't know that actually translates in venture. Like if you put in 15-hour days at the office every day, like I'm used to doing, right, might be a mistake. You might be overworking, overthinking things, or like looking at too much crap or something. I don't know. So I'm not sure I had the temperament for being that patient and waiting for the fat pitch and then hitting it out of the park.
Yeah, I've always said because especially in the type of investing that Kleiner Perkins or Founders Fund does, it's like each partner is doing 1 to 3 deals max a year, right? So like 1 to 3 deals, one deal. Like imagine doing 1 deal a year.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
It's just that's a different temperament to your point.
Yeah, I don't know. Logistics is like always on 24/7. It's better suited. I like that.
How long were you actually at Founders Fund for?
Well, I'm still a venture partner, so I'll try to help them out. But I'm so focused on Flexport right now, and until Flexport's back where we need to be, which I hopefully is this end of this year, where we're really throwing off a lot of cash and in an awesome place. I think it's like fiduciary responsibility to spend all my time on Flexport and not look at other stuff. So probably like full time, about 3 months at Founders Fund. Pretty short little stint.
Yeah. And then what happened? Like, what actually happened? Like, did you freak out? Like, did you have a moment where you were like, oh my God, the business environment changed?
Yeah. Well, the business environment's always changing. We don't blame that. There was definitely a few moments. So, it's not a coincidence. So I joined Founders Fund I hired the CEO. We were co-CEOs, but really I was kind of letting him run the show for about 6 months. And then I didn't do much of anything for about 3 months. And then Founders Fund was kind of recruiting me during that process. Eventually I agreed and joined. So I did about 3 months there. But once I joined Founders Fund, I had all kinds of people from Flexport reaching out to me and be like, because I had like board level visibility of what's happening at Flexport, but not operating level anymore. Mm-hmm. They'd kind of like pulled me back from meetings and cadences and things like that. So that's I had a bunch of different people reach out to me, be like, Ryan, did you know about this? Like this customer, this metric, this churn rate, these things that weren't like board level visibility. And so I started to get wind of like, oh man, there's some real issues here. And then we had a board meeting that was pretty bad. Like,
your first board meeting?
Yeah.
Not as the CEO?
Yeah. Second board meeting, not as CEO. In the missed the forecast pretty bad. The results were just like, whoa, what's going on? And that's when the board asked me to come back. So
how unnerving was it in the period of time where all of a sudden other people have to tell you about your business because you're no longer in those meetings and now you're like a board member? How weird was that feeling?
Bit. Yeah. I mean, man, I haven't thought about it in a while. It was tough. Obviously, like we built this business over a decade, right? And so like hearing about customers that loved us forever and are churning, you're just like, what's going on? Like we had a few big problems. Quality. I basically came back with, you can see what the problems were based on what the priorities were when I came back to the company 18 months ago, which was step one was quality. Like we had, in pursuit of efficiency, we had really, we had taken our operators and got them hyper-focused on individual tasks and do the same task over and over again across everybody's shipments, kind of like treat people like robots type activity. And nobody was taking ownership of the shipments or the customer accounts. It was like a bunch of people just pushing buttons. And that doesn't work in logistics. So step one was like kind of reorganize around the customers, get our operators dedicated to each customer, and then get operator on each task, on each shipment, like do all the tasks on the shipment instead of one task over and over across all the shipments. So quality, we had to cut costs like crazy. So we cut about $300 million worth of fixed costs out of the business. And then unit economics. And we had gone from being around a 15% take rate business to 0. Now we're back to 18.
Why?
Primarily it was on the audit side. So freight forwarding, global logistics is a big accounting problem, honestly. It's like, wish I'd appreciated this when I started the company. It's ultimately because I never really found accounting to be very interesting. But you know, on a given transaction, you have like 10 different vendors and you have to, that are each performing some service. That's the job of the forwarder, is to coordinate as the container or the pallet travels across the world, all these different vendors, like moving it from a truck from here to this warehouse. The warehouse is doing something to the port, right, onto the ship, end to end, government fees, everything like that. And so you've got to account for all those bills, take them in, audit them, make sure they billed you the right amount, attach them to the right shipment, and then bill them through correctly to the customer. And so a bunch of those processes has been outsourced to the Philippines, again, in pursuit of efficiency instead of quality.
And what's Flexport's role in this whole?
Yeah, people hire Flexport to move products around the world and move inventory. Businesses help. We help businesses ship cargo all over the world. So, and it is that complex coordination. So if you're a brand, you're a company that makes these glasses, you don't want to have to deal with all those different vendors. You just hire Flexport, and we execute the transaction end to end. And unlike a traditional forwarder, we're doing all that coordination not by email. We actually have built integrations and processes to technology to make that simple. And so you get a single pane of glass. Where's my stuff? When is it going to arrive? Better estimates for your transit time, SKU level, inventory level visibility. Where's my stuff? And great pricing because of our scale. So so coming back to the problems that had emerged, we basically like all in on efficiency. And like maybe at Amazon's world, that's the name of the game, is just like have workers who are kind of robotic. But in global logistics, freight forwarding, it's a very service-oriented business. Like you've got to take ownership of the customer accounts, and there's a lot more variability because it's not all inside the four walls of our building. It's not, we don't own the trucks. Like we're coordinating.
Yeah.
So you got to have like kind of problem-solving, creative people. It's not a pure tech business. It's not a pure robotic kind of asset-heavy service business, execution business. So, so a lot of these things that we built over a decade have started to fall apart pretty quickly. Like margins had eroded, et cetera. Good news was we got it back also really quickly. So our net promoter score had fallen to about 17. Net promoter score is it's a pretty brutal metric, actually.
It's pretty low.
I know, it's pretty low. It was always in the 60s. The pandemic really took it pretty bad, down to like 17. Last month it was 72. So we really turned it around through the quality work that we were doing, listening to customers more, like building what they asked for, et cetera. So, but yeah, I lost some time. Probably at the end of my life will be a little bit shorter because of the 6 months of how hard I worked and how much stress I went through to turn this thing around.
Can I ask, like, were you tired? Like, why did you leave in the first place?
No, I wasn't. I love this job. So I wanted to find a partner. We're an operations company, like we're operations as a service. So I was looking for a partner.
Like you had a COO search, right?
Yeah,
it started as a COO search.
It was a COO search. And I kind of caught a whale. I hired the guy who ran ops for Amazon. So it seemed like, man, this guy, and then pretty quickly I kind of convinced myself that he would be better as the CEO.
Right. You started talking and you thought, this guy's not going to take the COO job. And then you thought, man, maybe he's better suited to take the CEO job.
And I started thinking like, what would I be better at? And I just like, I don't know, maybe like some sales and marketing and hype man type stuff. Like, that's not a job. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like, well, it turned out I'd be better at most of the things. So I come back with more confidence and like my own ability. And I really changed my mindset quite a bit. I probably know like 5 times more people at the company now. I'm like way more involved in all the details of everything than I was before. So some of that's confidence and some of that's just like, changing attitude of like, okay, I got to go get out there.
And Ryan, is the confidence comes from you hold this guy that is the preeminent expert on logistics, ran it at Amazon in such high regard. And then he comes into a business like yours, struggles, and all of the doubts that you thought about your ability to operate maybe started to go away?
Yeah, some of that for sure.
When you were doing the co-CEO thing, at that point, did you not ask yourself like, wasn't that the point of the co-CEO thing? To see like, how is this going to work together?
Yeah. There were definitely...
did you feel like you were in too deep?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were moments where it's interesting, someone who's very confident and competent resume-wise, you're like extreme confidence. So at some point, someone's really credible, seems competent, seems like they know what they're doing, and is very certain. You're like, can make you ignore a lot of red flags or make you ignore a lot of problems. It's a dangerous thing actually when you see someone who's supremely confident.
You've probably hired other executives that have that same characteristic, no?
No, everybody's different, but I would say that it's interesting. I think extreme confidence is kind of a very dangerous attribute in the world. I don't see myself as extremely confident because I know how little I know. And like, it's a better approach. I think Paul Graham wrote about this recently, like that the best people are always approach the world as a true beginner. Like asking, I forget exact language he was using, but it's sort of like just like be constantly curious, and it's the one attitude that will always persist, and you never have to give that up, because if you're a true beginner, you just admit it and you just be curious and learn, and then by the way, if you continue to maintain that, you'll be smarter and you'll know more than everybody, and that's the best way to live. And that's always how I've been. But there's a certain Flexport culture, we always used to call it try to hire insecure overachievers who like didn't have supreme confidence but were actually like incredibly good. So yeah, we're trying to get back in that mode of like, hey, we're not looking for the know-it-alls of the world, and logistics is kind of full of them actually. People who they've spent 20 30 years in the business, so they think they know everything, but nobody knows everything about logistics.
Do you think that you get mischaracterized as overconfident because you're charismatic?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention, but I do have like a legion of haters on LinkedIn. I blocked them all. But people tell me about them. I've blocked them because I just don't need that kind of stuff in my life. And I use LinkedIn for like sales and stuff sometimes. So I do go on there. But people tell me, like, how do you deal with all the hate? I'm like, I literally don't see it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think I do, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think I get typecast as that, like overconfident. And I've been asked the question before of like, what's the one thing that most people think about you that you disagree with? And I would actually say that that I'm very confident.
Interesting.
I think it's like I am far more insecure than people would believe, maybe because I'm charismatic externally. And I think it's easy to pinpoint the charismatic person as the overconfident person.
Right.
And I think if you're both charismatic and overconfident, that's a really dangerous combination.
Yeah, interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
I just try to say, I don't know. I mean, confidence is a good thing. It should emerge naturally if you're actually good at something. But overconfidence is always the line. And we're I'm very fortunate. Like logistics is the best business in the world, global logistics especially, to learn about other businesses because you're like, and maybe banking is comparable or something. You see the money flows, but we see the flow of the goods. I'm like, how does every company work? And it's just an endless landscape for curiosity to just figure out. Like, and no one knows how it all works. Like I was saying before, there's always like layers. You thought you were working with the like how everybody makes money and how there's just endless layers to it all.
Yeah. So. And when the executive, when the CEO, co-CEO came in, then became the sole CEO, at that point, the burn of the company was pretty high, right?
Yeah. Well, it kept going up and up and up. So it went, yeah.
Like you guys hired
I approved a lot of these plans. I mean, I approved the plan. So it was
like, I read it went from 450 people at the beginning of 23. And then when you got back, this is
software engineers.
Yeah. 450 engineers to 1,300 in a year.
We hired like 900 software engineers in a year. That's why actually cutting costs was pretty easy because those folks had not really got in and started to be contributors.
Right.
It takes
but
a long
you
time.
approved it.
I approved it. And like, man, I want to live in a world where that was the right move. It was badass. Like we built this insane, great engineering team.
Yeah.
And our roadmap is really compelling. It remains to be like, it's so exciting, the stuff that we can do with tech for this industry. And the industry is so massive that like there is a future where that was the right move to make. And like, maybe I'm just like reined it in too fast because it would be incredible to accelerate our product roadmap by 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But it was not financially the place that Flexport needed to be. Capital markets changed on us. Freight markets changed on us.
Can you talk about what happened in that time with the freight and capital markets? Because I think that's
capital markets, because you're working in a VC fund. So like, I mean, it's just like the environment for late stage startups. It like turned, everybody else was cutting costs and it's 2022. It was 2023 was not 21 and 22. Right.
Yep.
So it was very clear you're not gonna be able to raise more money. And we've raised plenty of money. We don't need to. And then the freight markets really turned on us because COVID kind of unwound. When COVID was hitting, ocean freight prices it was at the margin in the spot market was like $20,000 to ship a container. And we're taking 1% of that. So we were profitable in 2022 and full on profitable as a company. And then prices came way down. And so that confluence of those two things, but like we can't blame external. We just like overhired. We didn't hit our sales forecast. We were churning business. Like I was saying, our unit economics turned upside down. So there was just like a bunch of things that were own goals that we don't blame the market for it.
This was a serious process to bring on a new CEO. Like you did it pretty methodically. Like you brought on a co-CEO, then it becomes this sole CEO. Then you extract yourself. Then you are on the beach for a few months. Then you go to Founders Fund, become a partner there, right? Like this is like quite a extraction process. How long did it take you to be like, oh my God, I think I need to unwind all of this?
Yeah.
Like mentally, was that a hill that you had to climb?
Yeah, I mean, it's all flashbacks right now. I've put this out of my mind for a while. I forget the exact details of it all, but yeah, it was definitely, I mean, it was not an overnight decision. It wasn't just a me decision. The whole board was unanimous in saying, hey, Ryan, we need you to come back and step back in. And I was like, yeah, I'm honor bound to go, it's my whole life's work. I'm not going to let this go, fall off a cliff. But I don't think, it wasn't something that the board came to lightly, right? There was several months of
deliberation,
a little bit of deliberation. Not everybody got there at the same speed. Some board members had to convince other board members or at least talk them through it and the timing of it all. So make sure there was good governance. There was good process behind it all. It wasn't like me I didn't have the board power to make that decision. It was a board level decision. But yeah, there was a couple months of active discussion before they really pulled the trigger.
And were you chomping at the bit then? Like, were you like, you saw the car driving off the cliff and you're like, I got to get back in there, but
driving off a cliff's a bit too strong, but yeah, certainly like long-term trajectory wasn't where we needed the company to be. And yeah, I saw it and I felt like a sense of urgency. I also did think it was important that we be a company with like great governance and there's a process for these things. And not be reckless around it. So it was a pretty healthy balance. We moved as quickly as you could on something where of this magnitude.
Mm-hmm. And like, are you married?
Yeah.
And like, your wife obviously, like, I mean, you're like addicted to the game. Like, you can't sit still at Founders Fund. Like, you love working, right?
Yeah.
When you were sitting at home, like during the period where you were not at Flexport, was she happy for you to go back, or was she like, "Are you sure you're ready for this?"
She's I couldn't do without her. She's been super supportive. She knows that Flexport's my life's work. I was doing Flexport well before I met her, so she already knew like how important Flexport is to me. So yeah, it was never a doubt. Never a doubt that that's where I have to go and do. I'm honor bound to make Flexport successful.
And in your mind, like before you came back the first day, did you think like you were gonna have a hero's welcome back and like, you know, the founder has returned and then like I have no idea.
I had no idea. There were standing ovations all over Flexport offices when I came back and gave a speech and announced it. Like people went crazy. Maybe there were some other people who were less happy and they were quiet in the back or something. I don't know, but there was definitely people knew that, hey, things weren't quite right. We had lost our mojo in terms of being customer focused. Like it's a B2B business is really different than consumer logistics. Like in consumer logistics, if you talk to the customers, like something went terribly wrong. Like you shouldn't be talking to these people. Like why are they, why is your Amazon customer calling in? Like something went wrong. B2B, like you should talk to your customers constantly. I met, where are we? Middle of March. I've met, my goal for end of March is for Q1 was to meet 200 customers in person. I think I'm at 150. So I don't know if I'm going to do it. I got 25 I'm meeting next week. And that gets me to 175 with a week to go. But that's not because things are wrong, right? It's just like that's the nature of being CEO of a B2B company is like you have to be really engaged because our customers spend, biggest customer I think last year spent over $100 million with us. Wow. So like they need to talk to the CEO. Or they're not going to trust, they need to know that they're
and
priority.
That's how this business is too.
Whatever size of the company it is, this is like either their biggest, it's probably their second biggest line item. Now with customs, it might be their first. Like you have the cost of the products, then the cost of logistics, and then the cost of people is like third, probably for most of our customers. So it is a massive line item. So even if you're a small company, you're spending more on your logistics than any software, probably by an order of magnitude. So they got to talk to this leadership and not just me. I can't meet we have thousands of customers. I can't meet all of them, but I can meet everybody who's talking to the customers. Right. So I've spent time with all of our salespeople, finding out what the needs are. What are they saying? Right. Being in tune with the market. And that's the nature of this job.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
And obviously in life, like there are no such things as redos, but like if there was, you would just hire a great COO and stay in the business? Like,
I don't know. Try not to entertain hypotheticals. The world is vexing enough as it is.
But that was the goal. That was the original.
I was trying to hire, a great COO.
Yeah.
Why? Well, we're an operations business. So like, I think what Flexport does is try to do the same thing over in one part of our business, which operations, like moving the cargo, is do the same thing we did yesterday a little bit better. Like just have super dialed processes, KPIs, do all this kind of Lean Six Sigma stuff that I've now become really attuned to, but I'm much more of a creative product type person, sales oriented, creative product developer than I am dial the same exact process over and over again. Like I can't do the same thing 2 days in a row personally. That's not my skill set. So I was looking for someone who loves that, just like statistical process control, W.E. Deming, quality costs less mindset, like just drive that. And I think that if you talk to people who understand industrial processes, the company, Toyota was kind of the original pioneer of a lot of this stuff, the Toyota production system. And the two companies in the US who have done the best job of putting the Toyota production system to work are Amazon and Danaher, which is more manufacturing, but Amazon's logistics. So it just seemed like natural fit. Now I don't think they call it that. They've got their own Amazon lingo and stuff, but ultimately we're talking about really good statistics and measurement metrics of the full end-to-end flow and look for variability and eliminate outliers and waste. And that's a whole genre of business philosophy and process execution that I don't know. It's not certainly not my background. I've become really good at it and something I'm obsessed with now, but I was looking for someone who would just own that part of our world for me so I could focus on what I like, what I'm better at.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, we actually have a lot of those people at Flexport, so I should have just had more confidence to promote folks from within. It's like ultimately always the lesson is promote from within.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. Pretty convinced. Now you sometimes have to hire from outside. I recently hired a guy, senior exec in Asia, but I told him you're not allowed to make any decisions for 60 days. And after that, you got to show me your plan and I'll approve it before, and then we'll go execute it together. Right. And there was, I think he was a little taken aback, but in the end, absolutely loved it because his plan, he told me on day 60, I was when I literally kept him to that. Like day 60, I was like, all right, now you can show me your plan. What do you want to do? He told me that if he had written the plan on day 55, it would have been different.
Wow.
Much less on day 1.
Yeah.
And so, maybe we should still slow roll it and figure out what's going to be different in 30 days or whatever. But getting someone to come into a senior role with that humility, because he just went and learned from, he knew he wasn't going to change anything. So just spend 60 days asking everyone questions, learning. So that was, I wish I'd done that all along in all my hiring, I think, is like get awesome people, but then force them to stay humble and learn and not just come in and try to
Why do you think
what they learned
Why do you
elsewhere.
think that lesson is to promote from within?
It is just so hard for people. Every company is so different. And unless they've done that exact same job in that same industry, and then they won't have done it in your culture, in your company, and your people, your processes, like they're bringing a lot of baggage, a lot of stuff that might just not work, a lot of stuff that you've tried. Like no one's that. I mean, we're a group of really smart people who've been obsessed with this company for a decade. Like, what are the odds that some person smarter than all of us combined, like knows stuff, like can think of stuff that none of us thought of? It's like probably pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
So most of the better off doing the job yourself, finding out who's awesome that you can teach how to do it, promote them into that.
Yeah.
So,
and this idea of like playing to your strengths, right? Like, oh, what I really want to be doing is sales and marketing, product. What I really don't want to be doing is things like Six Sigma and optimizing and tweaking. Like now, maybe is the lesson that you draw that actually I can get into that stuff and I do enjoy it more than I thought and I have to enjoy it? Or is the lesson like, no, like I still think that I should just play to my strengths, and really there are competent people, they just happen to be internal, I should promote them and they can like augment some of
it's a bit in between those last two things. I mean, it's definitely like I can't do all the things, and I'm not.
Yep.
I'm not like I've taken a bunch of statistics class, and I find it interesting.
Yeah.
But you're better off finding good people who I need to understand the base level, so I can not delegate. Complete abstain from understanding.
Yeah.
You can't delegate understanding. You got to understand what they're doing,
Yeah.
but empower good people to go execute. So. And then, yeah, man, I mean, I just think you find people who are ready to grind and put in the time and the work and the energy and the commitment to the company are just like worth so much more than some big exec who thinks they need, just to put in a 9 to 5.
Why?
Get back. It's just like there's no substitute for passion and being able to outwork people. I have a chief of staff now. I like having like a good right hand working. He outworks me, and just getting people like that who will be everywhere. I was looking at Slack lets you see how many messages different people send. My chief of staff has sent more messages. He's no one's even sent half the number of messages he sent in the last 30 days. Like I don't know what this guy. He's slacking everybody in the company, keeping everybody on their toes, like working with. And I'm right. I'm this guy who's number 2 in the company, so. That's worth more than somebody who's like 20 years of experience, in my opinion. Someone who's going to work their ass off. And you have to be super smart, but there's a lot of really smart people in this world. But if you're not committed, willing to outwork everybody,
Yeah. And then this is going to be a tough question. You don't have to answer it, but can you steel man what the now gone CEO would say? Like, if he was sitting here, would he have a very different point of view?
Yeah, of course. And you know, the truth is probably somewhere in between. I think he has said some of these things publicly, so we don't need to dig it up. But probably that I'm a renegade cowboy startup guy who doesn't, you know, deserve to have such a great professional CEO run his company for him or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's something to that.
And that you signed off on the burn.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's just true.
Yeah.
I did sign off. Like I didn't think we were going to burn that much money.
Which was how much? Is it out?
Oh, we won't get into it. It's not out there, but we're close. I've turned it around. We're going to be profitable. God willing, here at the end of the year, we should be in the back to profitability.
Yeah.
So I say God willing because there's some things like way outside of our control.
Do you think you could have made the co-CEO thing work for a while?
I'm not sure. I think you want to have one leader. I'm pretty skeptical. I don't know companies that have really made that work.
There are a few.
Yeah.
I mean, Brex did it for a while.
Yeah, they did for a while. They had a very unique relationship.
Those two.
Yeah.
I have Pedro coming in tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you ask him. I mean, I don't know. I know them, but I don't know that much about how they organized it. But I think Enrique spent most of his time externally, and Pedro ran everything internally. It's like kind of weird. Pedro's the man for putting up with that. I'll be like, wait, what? You get to have all the glamour, and I got to do all the work.
Yeah. That's right.
But it worked for them. I mean, no criticism.
Yeah.
But those guys have also been friends since they were like 10 or
17.
something. Yeah. So like,
no, not even like 12. You're
12.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so that's a little different. That's a lot different. I didn't have my co-founder was my brother actually. But
in the beginning.
Yeah. But he never really worked on Flexport full time. It was like for both of us a part-time project for a few years while we were trying to get licensed by CB Customs and Border Protection. So although he's a co-founder, he was never like.
What were you doing?
We ran importgenius.com. So we still own that. It's another startup.
You and your brother.
Yeah.
Previous to this.
Yeah.
And your brother started that company?
Yeah.
And then you worked for him.
I worked for my brother. We started a company before that even. So we were partners at Import Genius. I worked for him at the previous company.
Okay.
So yeah. So he's my co-founder, but with Flexport, it was sort of like he never really was full time. Once I went full time, he had done Y Combinator for a different company that he was full time on. So we both kind of like advised each other's companies and had shares in them, and like we're co-founders, but not that business relationship of like working together every single day. We did that in the past. It's
And how old were you when you first started working together?
Oh, I mean, 13. We would sell stuff at the flea market, like in Maryland. So we've always been like.
And he's older than you?
Yeah, he's my older brher.
And does he feel like your older brother?
Yeah.
Like, do you have like the older, younger brother thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's he's definitely my mentor. You know, he's someone who's supremely confident actually, and he's usually right. So confident and right is good. Confident and not right is dangerous.
So you started working together young.
Yep.
Like you two, how much older is he than you?
He's 3 years older.
So
we might have started before that. I took over one of his businesses when I was 9 or 10 years old. My mom is an entrepreneur, and she had us. We would stock this snacks and sodas in her office, and then send her an invoice, and we'd go to this grocery store and buy the stuff and then mark it up 2x, sell it to her. So that was like how she taught us to run a company. He did that for a few years, and then I don't know, he did other stuff, and I took that business over. And my dad's a computer programmer, so he taught us how to like write code to generate the invoices and check the file our tax returns and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then so you did that. Then what? Like when did the next business like?
So they were all kind of side projects. When my brother graduated he's a few years older, like I said. So when he graduated from college, his college roommate and him started a company. He was working at Intel as a computer programmer, and his college roommate and him had this side project that he was taking his nice salary from Intel and investing and buying motorsports products from China and selling them on the internet. And he built all the software for that. So it's kind of like, honestly, it was pre-Shopify. So e-commerce checkout software, inventory management, invoicing, payments.
Yeah.
We should have built a company selling the software rather than the crappy Chinese motorcycles. Because it was in the cloud. Like my brother's a genius programmer. So we, in 1999 had cloud-based software for doing all this stuff, but we never heard of or thought of like selling subscriptions to the software. We just used it to run our e-com business. So when I graduated from college, I joined that company, working for him.
Doing what?
Built the websites, marketing, SEO, e-com. Then I moved to China, did sourcing, ran the supply chain, found the goods, customer service, sales, just like whatever around the startup. So did that for a few years. Then we started Import Genius together. So that's the company. Import Genius takes data on global trade and sells subscriptions. So we have subscription access to bills of lading. If you import something by ocean freight, the bill of lading is a public record in the United States and 13 other countries. So that has a tremendous amount of data on it, but it's all locked up in ways that you have to make this data searchable. So we built the search engine for that and sell subscriptions to it. So that's a nice business. We've had it for 15 years now.
It's still a nice business?
Yeah. It's a great little company.
Like it spits out cash?
Yeah.
To the two of you?
3 of us. So Michael Kanka is the third partner. Yeah.
It just kind of runs on its own.
No. There's a team behind it. But from my perspective, I'm not, I was the CEO there for like 5 years, but then I left to start Flexport. So
Did you ever think that was your life's work?
I wanted it to be my life's work. But there's certain, it is a great business. I think it had kind of reached, it's still grown nicely.
What's nicely?
It grows like 5 or 10% a year.
On what base? Ish. Millions?
Yeah, millions of dollars a year in profit. It's a good business. But
in profit? It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great. Honestly, if I'd known that business would last, it's been
15 years growing 5 to 10% on millions of dollars of profit. You could.
There were some years where it didn't grow that much, but it's been growing about 10 or 10%. My brother still works on it quite a bit to get the marketing working and get it growing. So it's probably growing. Yeah, we didn't. Part of why I think people were attracted to Flexport is like I didn't need to do Flexport. My first head of sales was like he met me and I told him about Import Genius and that I had left to start Flexport. He's like, man, you left that company to start this one? Like, right. I got to join this guy. This guy's kind of crazy. Like, it must be a good idea. I think investors also saw that I wasn't just trying to make a quick buck. I don't need the money. Of course, I want more money. I love money, but it's not what motivates me to start the company. At some point, Import Genius, I think it can continue to grow and have a big, bright future, but it wasn't. Some companies kind of like reach their potential. There's niches in the world. Like it's not meant for world domination. There's a niche of like buying and selling this type of data. It's not, TAM matters, right? Like it's not an unlimited TAM of companies that need that data and are willing to spend lots of money on it. And at some point I got pretty frustrated that I was like trying to make it grow and turned out I was spending more money but not getting enough results. So I was actually reducing, a lot of my energy and effort was like working against us, working against the P&L, and just frustrated with myself, like try to direct mail, try email marketing, telemarketing, hire more salespeople, invest more in customer service. And you're like, well, the expenses are going up, but you can't
drive the bottom line.
Yeah. And it didn't see the profit. I didn't see the results where we wanted it. And so started iterating, thinking of like ideas in this space, which was like, you think I just love the internet and I love global trade. We put those two things together. And that's the experience of shipping motorbikes. We were the first dealer in the United States for Geely, which is the Chinese car company that bought Volvo. We weren't selling their cars; we were selling their motorbikes, their motorcycles, and we were very, very frustrated by the experience of working with freight forwarders. Like they just no tech, and they always wanted to rip us off. It just those two things basically, and so just eventually, as we're doing Import Genius, started realizing like running out of energy on this. How much more can I put into the thing when I'm not seeing results from my work? started to think about other ideas in the related space. And that's where the experiments that became Flexport came from, which is like start off and see if people would want a service, which is, we started as a customs broker. So tech to clear customs, make that paperwork simple, kind of TurboTax for US customs was what we, in fact, I don't know if I literally used that, but our Y Combinator pitch was customs, not freight forwarding, not global logistics, just customs.
And did that take off?
Yeah, like we've never been able to keep up with the demand, basically.
You've been swimming against the current ever since.
Well, what happened, you know, I would say certainly, yeah, basically we had about 300 customers sign up before we launched. We're like 300 companies. They sign up is whatever. They filled out a lead form, but there was strong indications of demand. Then what would happen is the biggest ones, just like enterprise sales cycle, I knew nothing about how to close like a big enterprise deal. That was like not my world back then. This was 15 years ago. And then the small ones, as we explored with them, they didn't want to separate their freight forwarding from their customs. That tends to be, small companies don't want the complexity. They're just like, so the company that ships the ocean freight should also clear customs. And so that pulled us, we wanted to just do customs and be the best at customs and let other people deal with the freight. And eventually we were going to do freight once we were the best in the world at customs. That's sort of like business dogma. You sort of like core competency, don't do too much. But like the other business dogma I believe in even more is like listen to your customer and do what they tell you. Like, so we got pulled pretty quickly into air and ocean freight forwarding. And then that's where you like demand and we just can't keep up. Both because there's a lot of demand for what we do and because what we is really hard. Like all of a sudden you now have to be in all kinds of geographies. Like in year 2, Flexport opened in Europe and in Asia.
Wow.
Most companies do that in like year 8 or something. But like, honestly, we should have done it from day one. How do you do global logistics without having people on all over the globe? And then you're building a lot of tech for every mode of transport, different geographies. So a lot of surface area that we had to build technology for.
And is your brother still in the picture at this point?
Yeah. I mean, he's a pretty
like at that point,
decent sized shareholder.
At that point, I meant.
No, not as full time, but we shared an office together so he has a company called BuildZoom, which is a YC company also. He did YC before me, the year before. So, and then when Flexport came out, got some funding, we like shared an office together. So BuildZoom and Flexport.
But there was never a point where he was going to join you or you were going to join him. And
I couldn't convince him. I mean, he was pretty all in with BuildZoom. They'd raised, I forget how much money, they raised millions of dollars for their own thing. So he was committed to his investors and his BuildZoom's a cool company. So he was committed on that. But so, and we're better as like arm's length, like collaborators than, I don't know. You like said you have an older brother, younger brother.
The competitiveness?
There's some element of, it's very hard for me. He's my older brother. It's very hard for him to listen to what I say. He's usually right. But, I was always going to be the CEO of Flexport. So I'm not sure my brother wants to have a boss. He doesn't need to have a boss.
Especially
he's like too successful.
Especially his younger brother.
He's too successful to have his younger brother be his boss. So we're better. We're better as partners. Like that said, being a founder can be incredibly lonely, you know this, and you don't want to tell all your employees all your problems. That's a bad idea. And your anxieties and your fears. And you probably don't want to dump that on your wife or your spouse or whatever else you have. That's like not a great place for that stuff either. So having like my brother who deeply understands entrepreneurship, he taught me how to be an entrepreneur. So he's my spiritual
and vice versa.
He doesn't have problems. I feel like he's good.
What do you mean?
I'm joking.
He doesn't share them with you.
I'm joking. He's good. But Flexport's more stressful than his companies.
Do you feel lonely now?
No, I'm good, man. I have a great team.
Are you actually good?
Well, I mean, look, there's always a loneliness that comes from being the founder of a company. You go through things that others don't see and have to deal with. But
like what?
Well, you're the one ultimately on the hook who, I've had to raise the money or make the hard calls, make some of the difficult judgment calls. But basically, I've done it with the team. My core team been with me 7 or 8, 9, couple of them for 10 years now at Flexport. So, but the team has expanded. I got 15 people reporting to me. So
Is that high relative to what it was?
I think that's about the maximum that anyone should probably have healthily. It's not healthy even at 15, but I haven't found a better structure. So, but it's, yeah, being the CEO of a big company, I don't know, being the founder of a big company, you'll see others talk about this. It's just difficult. Like, I would say, if you look, like one of the things that you get from perspective in time is I'm here. I'll still be at this company in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Like I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. I don't know that you could say that about anyone else in the company. In the beginning, you kind of believe that, oh, this whole team, we're all in it together. But when you've been through the cycles, you see people come and go. Had to fire a lot of good people, and some of my friends I've had to part ways with. Fired some people that didn't work out, plenty of those as well. You get that longer term perspective. There's a bit of loneliness that comes with that. You're like, well, I'm definitely going to still be here in 20 years. It also gives me a lot more confidence too, because like if there's an argument and I'm certain that I'm right, because I'm definitely going to be here in 20 years or in 10 years and you might not be. So we're going to go in my direction. And not everybody likes that, but that is just the nature of the thing, right? And I think 5 years ago, I was way more like, let me try to get everyone to agree and like, okay, I'll let this one go, even though I'm certain I'm right. I'll let them make their decision because now I'm like, I'm not letting someone make a decision if I'm certain that they're wrong, you know? Whereas in the past, I'm like,
because you're going to have to,
I'll be here to clean it up.
Hold the weight of that decision in a decade from now.
When it doesn't work in 5 years and I'm running your department because you failed, like I'm going to have to suffer through the consequences and you won't. So there's a bit of a loneliness that comes with that. Now that's not like but I'm pretty open with my team about it all. Like it's all good. I hope that all my team members will stay for the next 5, 10, 20 years. I hope they will. I mean, it's an amazing business, but that's probably in reality, people have different life's paths. I don't know that there's other people. There's a few of us at Flexport who consider this our life's work. And we're just like, we know we're all in forever, but I don't know if that's everybody. And I wouldn't expect that. Right. It's try to get more people to be like true missionary zealots, but that's the founder. That's what comes with being the founder. And you don't just get that as everybody else in the company.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that like, I mean, I completely believe you that this is your life's work, but for a 6 to 9 month period, it wasn't your life's work.
You know,
like, isn't that crazy?
It is kind of. Well, I know it was still going to be my life's work. I remember, I don't know if I've told this story publicly. Hopefully he forgives me. I don't think he cares. But when I told Paul Graham,
the Y Combinator founder,
founder of Y Combinator, is a good friend of mine, Flexport's first investor, and no one has ever been more disappointed in me than when I told PG that I was hiring a CEO. Like he was just like, what did he say? He said, and I said, well, I think he's going to be better at the job than me. Because he asked me, is this your life's work? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, then why would you ever leave? He's like, I think he's going to be better for the company than I am. And he said, that's like saying some other guy's going to be a better husband for your wife. It might be true, but you don't act on it. He was so pissed.
He was actually upset.
Yeah, he was. He was definitely upset. He was like, man, I think I thought Flexport was a great company. Now I think you guys must be in distress. It must be failing. Something must be wrong. Like, why would you do this? He's a wise man. And what he told me, it was pretty profound. He was like, okay, well, if this is your life's work and you think he's better than you need to go learn all the things that he's better than you at so that you can come back and do the job. Like, that's fine if you actually think he's better than you, but like you should spend the next few years learning all those things so that you can come back and run the company. As it turned out, it happened much faster than that. But yeah, it was profound. I think profound knowledge there.
What do you think he understood about the situation or you that you didn't at the time when you told him that you're leaving?
I just think he's like extreme founder bias. And that founders, they're fused in their company in a way that a professional manager never can be. And, at some point there does have to be a handoff because people don't live forever. So you see a lot of what like private equity funds do is like try to take these companies where the founder's long gone and it's become a bit of a bureaucracy. And can you get someone who knows how to behave and make some decisions and come in here and execute as if they're a founder to mix results? But that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I just think PG deeply believes that founders are better for their companies. That professional manager, I mean, he has that whole essay of Founder Mode where he writes a little bit about this. It was pretty surface level, to be honest, because I was there the day when Chesky gave his talk, and PG, great essay, but he kind of covered it at the surface level. But the crux of it is that a founder is fused. They know their company inside and out. They know all the things that are very specific to that company and how it should run successfully. And a professional manager knows generic things about how any company should run. And those two are not, how could the generic one ever be better than the specific one?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of his point of view, I think.
When Chesky gave the talk at YC, were you back?
Yeah. Yeah, I just come back. I forget the timing of it. I think I've been back for like 9 months or something.
And now this talk is in like Silicon Valley lore, is like his realization that he needs to be basically, in so many words, way more in the details.
Yeah.
Than he thought he had to be.
I've never been more pumped up in my life than hearing Brian give that like 3-hour rant. It was like everything I needed in life.
Because it resonated so deeply with you?
Resonated really deeply, and then very tactical, like good advice. I took a bunch of things and implemented them in the next couple of weeks. I reorged design to get, like, we had federated design under product and across the company, and we like brought it together. So there's like one design team that thinks end to end about the whole experience instead of like per unit. That was one. Two was I created this summit of the top 150 people in Flexport, and it's a moving group. If you weren't there, it doesn't mean you're not great. Change every year, but we do that now at least once a year. I'm aiming to do it twice a year. We bring these people together in person for like 4 days to go deep dive on the roadmap and what are we building and why, and make sure everybody's super committed to what the company's culture and vision and everything that we're executing. That was incredibly good for our culture. Did that just recently, 3 months ago. And then third was take all of our tech and group it in these launches once every 6 months instead of incrementally shipping tech every couple of weeks as you build something. Is just like bundle it and every 6 months do a big launch. And that we just did that a couple of weeks ago, and that was just like huge for our. And one, we got work done way faster. Some of the timelines were probably 3 months faster than they would have been without the deadline. People worked their ass off, and got great coordination internally between marketing and tech to like come together and properly tell the story of what tech was building and why, what we were building, why, and then and got great narratives. Like landed a positive TechCrunch article about Flexport. I haven't seen a positive TechCrunch article about us in a long time. So not that it's all negative, but like, actually like a great piece that you read it, you're like, damn, this is awesome. So a bunch of that, bunch of positive, like kind of narratives out there. So yeah, those are a few of the things. Brian also said a bunch of good management advice about like just being way more in the details, building connections with way more frontline employees. Our business is very different than theirs. So for me, talk to way more customers than I was ever before. And meet with, I probably talk to 30 or 40 Flexport employees every day.
Wow.
The accounting Slack and text message and phone calls and video calls and everything. Yeah. And in person.
And do you think the message that really hit home for you was like the same feeling that you had when you came back to the business, which was like, actually, I am the right person for the job if I operate in a way that is far deeper than I had thought I should be operating in?
Yes. That's the core. That was his core message that I had kind of independently discovered. And not to, Toby's from Shopify is another good friend, an investor of Flexport, an advisor for me, and he's the first person I heard say this, is that one of the worst, I don't remember his language, but one of the worst like mistakes of business is this idea. One of the most pernicious ideas in business is this idea that micromanagement is a bad thing. That being, there's always two words for the same thing. One that's good and one that's bad. The good one is attention to detail. Everyone, oh, that's good. Micromanagement's only a bad thing if your boss is an idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about and is telling you to do the wrong thing. But like if your boss is involved in your work and he's helping you with it and he knows what he's talking about, and that's awesome. Like you guys have a good collaborative relationship. I mean, I think it goes hand in hand with like you hire some exec. You can't just like delegate understanding and let them run the department hands free. And that's what Chesky was describing, that he went through and realized that I did the same, not just with the previous CEO, but other exec hires before that, is like I would manage the company through them and kind of treat their whole org as like this black box and get reports from them and what's happening with that. And like now I'm like, great, I'll still talk to you, still work with you, but like I'm gonna go talk to anybody I want to anywhere in the company, and if you don't like it, like we're not gonna it's not gonna be a good fit. Like you should welcome that I'm involved. And so I'm now skipping levels all the way to the front line and to the customer like 10 times more than I used to.
And why didn't you do that before? Were you worried about like, autonomy and empowerment for the manager?
Probably.
Like you didn't want to disenfranchise the functional leader? Yeah,
maybe. Probably some degree of advice that you got, like micromanagement's a bad thing. Just get a great leader, set them, that it's also convenient. If I just like hire this person and
your problems go away.
I hired them to solve the problem. So now I don't have to think about that problem. I can work on these other problems over here. There's always some problem for you to work on. It's not that I'm not working. But that's next thing you know, you've actually got much worse problems festering that, I was running around putting out fires instead of being like constantly involved. Putting out forest fires instead of like, hey, put the fire out while it's tiny instead of wait till it flares up, right? In the forest fire analogy. So now I'm way more like the fire extinguisher, putting out little tiny, dustbin fires instead of wait till the whole house on fire.
Right. And in many ways, don't you think that this person will solve my problem was the original charter of hiring the COO in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. Which
kind of got you into.
Well, I would, instead of trying to treat the whole org almost as a black box and like put this person on top of all of it. And they'll solve that. Like that was a huge mistake. Like you just got to go dig in and find the individual, break things down into smaller, and you got this end-to-end flow. Like our business is the end-to-end flow. Your customers use us to place orders to their factories. We use the factories acknowledge those orders, tell us when they're ready to be picked up. We give the customer like a great supplier scorecard that says their on-time performance for producing the goods and for booking the freight timely against SLAs. We then run algorithms to consolidate, maximize the number of goods that will fit in a container. And if it's that factory can't fill up the full container, we'll bring goods from a different factory of yours. So we maximize the utilization. We then have tech that places the booking on the best contract for you. It could be your own contract that you sign with the ocean carrier or one of ours, but look, optimizing for cost, transit time, and any commitments you have to those carriers. So we execute the transaction for you, then we track it, clear customs on both sides, make sure there's trucks picking up and delivering in both sides of the ocean, and deliver to your warehouse. So that's the end-to-end flow now goes all the way to customers' doors because we acquired Shopify Logistics. So we're delivering to homes, about 40 million packages a year, and to retail stores. So that's and then hopefully do it. Customer made money, do it again. So you're running that loop, the end-to-end flow. And so that's why it's a very hard org design problem, because they're like, I either put someone in charge of the whole thing end to end. It's not that I can, it's very hard to find an org structure where you're putting someone in charge of everything. And that's kind of the organizational design principle usually that people will have is Amazon calls it a single threaded leader. You put one person in charge and let them make all the decisions. But if you think about that end-to-end flow, you're crossing the whole world on each transaction. each transaction is going multimodal, ocean, air, truck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, usually ocean and truck, warehouse, customs, etc. So these are very different domains and disciplines and different geographies. So Asia to the US. So what's one person? I either have to put the COO and make them truly the boss of everything, or I just had to do it myself. And now I realize like, oh, okay, this isn't that hard. Like break it down, look at the flow, figure out where the bottlenecks are, what's breaking down, what are the quality issues, like study the outliers, look at the data, variability, the shipment, on-time performance. We're very good at metricizing all of that stuff now. And then look at the 5 worst shipments every week in each leg. What happened, root cause, ask why 5 times. Like a lot of this is well understood from the Toyota production system, was the original kind of pioneers of a lot of this, but there's a lot of other literature that you can study. And we've got great people at Flexport, so I just have to like more tightly manage them all. So now that's why I have 15 directs, is because like each of these teams plus a bunch of the tech orgs.
It's your only way of getting close to ground truth. By having these directs. Travel
like crazy. Went to 19 countries last year.
19?
Yeah.
Countries last year?
Yeah. And some of them more than once. And that doesn't count all the US offices that I went to, et cetera. So just there's no subsidy. I got to just like be everywhere, work harder.
Do you have kids at home?
Yeah.
Like the comment that you said to me at the very beginning of this conversation has been bouncing around my brain, where you're like, I like working. Like I work like 15 hours a day. Like you put a number on it. Now, maybe that's just a flippant number.
Some day, not every day, but yeah.
But like 15 hours a day, like it's like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Is it? So I don't work 15 hours a day. Some days I do, but I'll probably work. I start earlier than 8. And yeah, probably 7 till.
What do you
10.
actually?
I mean, I do a couple hours with my kids at bedtime, and then.
So you go to the office. You wake up. You go to the office at 7:30.
6. Leave my house dark these days. Ride my bike to work.
That's your exercise.
Yeah, pretty much. Ride my bike both ways. I should do more. I do some more, but I'm usually in the office by 7. I'm not there. I don't leave at 6. But I get up before 6.
And do you see the kids in the morning?
Not if I do that schedule.
And then you come home before the kids go to bed?
Yeah, I try to get home before they go to bed most nights, if I'm in San Francisco.
Which is not that frequently.
I'm here the weekends. I'm usually able to get home for the weekends, and I'm usually here 2 or 3 nights during the week. So that's not that bad. 4 or 5
that's
nights.
not bad.
Yeah, it's okay.
And then you spend...
Because like these countries, I'll do like a blitz where I go, like at the end of April, I'm going to India, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, China, Hong Kong, and Korea. And I'll do like 3 days in each country, 3 to 5 days in each country, or 2 to 5 days in each country. So 3 weeks, go to 6 offices.
But you're gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be gone for like 2. That's a bit extreme. Usually I go for like a 2 week. If I'm going to Asia,
that's a long time. Like I've been on the road for that long. Like by day, like I've been on the road for a long, long time.
Yeah.
My experience is like by day 13, like as you start approaching the second weekend, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get home.
Maybe 3. We'll see. I think I usually do 2 weeks, so 3 might be pushing it. We'll see we'll see. I might adapt and do only 2. It's just difficult, man, because India is a whole beast. I mean, I do all of that, and I can only go to India for 5 days. Like, and I got to go. We have 2 different offices in India,
right?
So, if I go all the way to Bangalore, I got to go for more than 2 days. Like, I got to go for at least 2 days, right? So it's just hard to shorten it. And if I don't, I'm in Asia. Like, for example, we're adding Korea to the end of the trip. Like, just look at the flight path. I'm literally flying over Korea to get home. Like, I should probably stop there and say what's up to the team that we have on the ground in Korea. So that's the nature of the job. I mean, I'm lucky. I feel blessed. Like, I'm looking at the travel itinerary. I bought all the Lonely Planet guides for these countries. Like, I used to be backpacking around the world so broke. Now I'm like, oh man,
you can go check out what's going on.
I can stay. It is much
stay at a
more,
nice hotel.
Decent hotels. The hotels are fine. Asian hotels are really nice. But the more important thing is, it's so much more fun to do business in the country. Like, you meet with the locals. You're going out to like nice,
right?
Someone local's showing you around.
That's true.
It's like when you're a foreigner, a tourist, you're just like, I broke like when I was in my 20s to do backpacking all over the world, but like I don't have any money, and I'm
also,
staying in the hostel.
Do you like the structure of doing business in a different country?
It's much more fun than just trying to be a tourist. Like I always make room to go to some historical stuff and see it if I can, but You don't need to, because it's like you're getting a much more local flavor, like
Yeah.
out to dinner with the local vendors or employees or whatever. Like I learn more about the world this way so I'm blessed. I think it's the coolest job in the world.
Yeah. And when so then you go home and you spend like two hours at home, like with the kids before bed?
Yeah, I try. I mean, it's very hard for me to turn off. Like logistics is 24/7, literally.
So what happens?
Literally, like
you
Flexport.
You get blown up on something.
Yeah, and that's just like an addiction that I have to go do it. So
yeah, so it's like you're getting blown up on something, but like really,
I'll blow other people up. I just think of something. I'm like,
exactly.
Nobody's blowing me up. I'm blowing other people up. Yeah, so it's hard to turn off. I don't know. I got to be a good dad.
I was in Palm Springs. My girlfriend does an annual trip with her family every year in Palm Springs. I was there this last weekend, and we were sitting in a Mexican restaurant Friday night, like 8 p.m., and just her and I having a nice dinner at the bar, and they have this like margarita flight, and I'm like, we got to get this. Like, this is awesome. I've never seen a margarita flight before. We get it. And then all of a sudden in my brain, like this idea pops up where I'm like, we should do an internal KP, like Hot Ones style, like interview show where people can get to know people. It doesn't matter. The idea doesn't matter. It's this crazy idea that like something very innocuous in the world just like reminded me of. Yeah. So I start blowing people up. Like, what do you think about? And this is like, I did not need to do it right there.
Yeah.
But I just like couldn't help myself. And then she's like, really? Like, really?
You know, they like the benefits of being married to an innovative, creative, global trotting founder type, but it's a little. People criticize Hannibal. Hannibal's the great Carthaginian general who almost defeated Rome, and he's both praised. He's often praised because his soldiers were very loyal. They never defected. He never had any soldier, 18, 20 years that they were in Italy. He never had a soldier leave his army. But then they say, oh, but he was so cruel. He would kill any soldier who defected. So, you take the good with the bad on these things. Like,
totally.
You can't just praise the one side of it of like, oh, this guy's like always on, high energy, building a global empire, so interesting, doing all these interesting things. And then also hate me for being always on, working hard, and being traveling all the time.
Do you ever hate yourself for that?
No,
never.
I don't think so. No, not for that. I should say, being a good dad is a priority for me for sure. And so I'll hate myself if I feel like this is getting in the way of me being a good dad.
But don't you think it gets in the way all the time?
Husband. Yeah. No, not all the time. I'm okay. It's fine. But what I do have a meditation or a mental thing that I try to do is just remember, because my kids are 2 and 4, so it's like you get a little bored sometimes, as every parent knows. The mental image that I try to say to myself at least once a day, and especially if I catch myself being bored, is just reminding, like at the end of my life, how much money would I spend? Hopefully, I'm worth a lot of money at the end of my life. How much of it would I give to be right here with this 4-year-old version of my daughter and my 2-year-old? And then that is like a pretty good meditation that a friend of mine taught me that I find useful.
But do you wouldn't you probably pay the same amount to like be flying around and like doing dinners with locals, doing business?
To go back and get in the game and doing more business.
Yes.
I do often think like, when I'm so old that I can't do business anymore, I'm still going to be a fan of business. Like
totally
finding out what's reading the Wall Street Journal or whatever the news source is in 50 years. Like I'm going to want to, I think business is so fascinating.
Reading an autobiography like it's a fiction book.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's fair. I want to stay in the game as long as I can.
And you like, it's often not the case that people say unabashedly that this is my life's work. I didn't do it for the money. And by the way, I want to be really rich and I love money.
Yeah,
Like those two things are usually either people don't say it because they don't think they're supposed to say it, or those two things usually are not in the same Venn diagram.
Yeah. Well, money is a really a fascinating. The best things in life have this paradox that like wanting it more will not lead you to get more of it. Love is like that. You really are like super focused on getting a girlfriend. You're actually going to be like kind of creepy, and no girl's going to want to hang out with you. Like it's money's like that too. If you're super focused on making money, nobody gives money to people like that. They give money to people that solve problems for them and help them. So I really have always wanted to have more money. I mean, I didn't grow up poor, but my parents didn't give me a lot of money. And so I wanted more money. I still want more money, but you have to hack yourself to realize, you have to hack this system, your own mental system, that if you actually fixate on having more money, it won't come to you. It's a bit, in World War II, there were these, cargo cults that formed. So on the islands around Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, I think Micronesia, the U.S. Sixth Army, the U.S. Army came in, the U.S. military came in and took over these islands during the island hopping campaigns, and they set up like the world's most modern industrialized Army Air Force set up runways, and the B-24s and all the planes came in. And for like a 3-year period, these islands were basically Stone Age people living there, like in the literal sense, like they made stone tools. And then, so like 3-4 years, the U.S. military came in with radios and modern equipment, all this insane technology, and cargo, axes, steel tools, everything. And then at the end, they just left. And these people were like, what just happened? And they actually formed a religion, cargo cult. They're called cargo cults. And they built this whole edifice. They kept the runways cleared, or they re-cleared them. They built towers out of coconut trees. They put coconuts on their ears, and anytime an airplane came by, they would wave, trying to get the airplane to land. I think it's a good lesson. Like, you have to know what actually leads to the results you want. You can't just like fake it. A lot of people think like, I remember early days Flexport. We had a local partner that worked with us. They were a freight forwarding company, and we were kind of reselling their services in the beginning. And they came to our office once in the early days, and then like 2 months later, they came back, or I went out to dinner with the founder, the CEO, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Ryan, like now we have open floor offices, and now we have dogs in our office." I was like, well, I don't know if that's the thing that you should have taken away from what's making Flexport successful.
Totally.
Or like people want to copy Google lava lamps and bean bags and I don't know, crappy HR policies that they've had. And you think that's what's making Google successful. It's like, it's not, right? So you have to, money's a bit like that. You got to figure out where does it actually come from, and not, and it's okay to want money, but you got to figure out where it comes from.
Yeah. One of my dear friends who used to be my peer, we were running the Central together at Palo Alto Networks. He's now off at Wiz. Okay.
Good for him.
He's the chief customer officer of Wiz now.
Oh, great.
And I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this story. I'm sorry, Fred, if you do. I love him to pieces. Okay. He is so good, but he's like you or I, like he is always on. And he loves the game, loves it. And I called him this morning to like congratulate him. Got bought for $31 billion, like the largest acquisition like I've ever seen, you know? And like money's never going to be an issue for him. Never. And it was really weird. The conversation with him was like, almost like he physically couldn't celebrate. Like the whole conversation was about like, I just watched him on the hedonic treadmill. That was like, whatever just happened, he's already on to the next thing. He's already on to what's happening at Google. He's already on to like what he's going to do at Google, how he's going to fix all of these problems. He's already on to like, man, this strike price wasn't this strike price. Like he's already on to like firefighting mode. And I had this weird moment after where I was like, oh my God, I just called like a very dear friend of mine to congratulate him on becoming like a whatever millionaire. And he was so wrapped up in like firefighting that like, I was like, I just had this weird thing where I was like, this never is going to go away for him. And then I was like, oh my God, am I that way? Like, I just had this moment of like, if I was in his shoes, I think I would say the same thing, which is like almost not even allowing myself to have that pleasure.
Well, maybe he's being stoic and being ready because he's still, I assume that deal has to clear antitrust and whatever else.
Yes,
and
that's true.
Remember,
that's true.
Figma tried to sell it to Adobe.
Oh, we remember.
And then
We remember.
government
We
screwed it
remember.
up. So
We remember.
maybe he's got that. Maybe that's healthy. I also think, I lose things like keys, and I'm just like bad at losing stuff, like really bad. And not your cargo, but just my own personal items. So I have a personal rule that if I get upset when I lose something. Now less so than normal people because I'm just used to it. But if I find it, I have a rule. I must celebrate it at least as much as I was upset. I have to get at least that happy after I find it. So you make sure you take the time to celebrate.
Do you feel that way though?
Sure.
Like that feeling of like just like like Import Genius is this business that's making you a lot of money. Doesn't matter, Then Flexport raises billions of dollars.
Well, yeah, you get used to whatever your station in life is pretty quick. That's definitely true.
Like now you're traveling around and like, are you? It's like, I don't know.
Well, man, I'm still flying coach a lot of times, so there's still places that levels.
I've seen you in the back of like cargo planes.
I have flown on our cargo plane. I wish TSA makes it really difficult. Like apparently before 9/11, you could just hop on. We have 3 747s in our that are dedicated to Flexport, and apparently way before my time, but before 9/11, I wasn't in the business back then, but you could just jump on your cargo plane whenever you wanted and go anywhere. But now it's like it's not worth it. Even though it was like the best experience ever flying on the cargo plane from Asia to the US, stopping in Alaska. But I think there is a hedonic treadmill that exists in the world. I'm not motivated by money. I think money solves a lot of problems, but most of them it won't. More interested in the problem. The money's the byproduct of solving problems, right?
Yeah.
But also one thing I've noticed is that if you get like 50% of the dopamine release or whatever other chemicals are happening in your brain from buying something, you get about 50% of that benefit by thinking about buying it. Only if you don't buy it and you just think about it, you still have the money. So you can think about buying other things. So you can like do that over and over again. So you can let yourself dream, but then just don't pull the trigger. That's like a good hack. But the moment you spend the money, you're like, I don't have any money. I'm like, can't buy anything. You have to stop doing the dream. So keep the money in the bank account.
That's a good hack.
Yeah, I thought that's all we were going to talk about. I didn't expect to go into all this other stuff.
That's what you wish we talked about. One is like what these tariffs. Like, what do these tariffs actually mean for import and export?
They're pretty brutal. First off, the tariff levels are very high. In U.S. standards, like the highest we've had in a long time. I don't know when the tariff barriers started to really come down. I should be more of a student of the tariff history, but longest in our lifetime, the highest in our lifetime. But I would argue almost as important is the uncertainty about what's going to happen next. And business is just really hard to plan if you don't know the long term. So I think we have reasonable confidence that tariffs are going to be high and probably higher than they are today on goods coming from China. We don't. The moment, however, that the administration put tariffs on Canada, the Mexico ones they backed off, although I have a feeling it'll be back in a couple of weeks. It's a 1-month extension. Canada currently has 25% duty. And we have a free trade agreement with Canada. So if they do that, then supply chains have been migrating out of China and putting manufacturing all over Southeast Asia, India, Latin America. Now you got to believe that there's tariffs coming for those countries too. If they're going to tariff Canada, they're going to tariff Vietnam. That's my personal stance. I don't have any inside info from the government, but that would be my working assumption. And that just makes it really hard. People are kind of paralyzed of like, what should I do with my supply chain? The one obvious answer is come make your products in America. But if you look at the labor cost, the US dollar is so strong. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You can buy stuff overseas for so much cheaper. And like, sorry, we're in the business of making money. That's why you run a business. So we're not here to do like patriotism. I mean, great, you do patriotism all day long. I'm a patriot, but like, I didn't start a business to be a patriot. If I do that, I would go work for the government. Like
Right.
I started a business to make money. I mean, that's why you
Right.
start companies. And so the government has to create a framework and say, these are really the rules. This is how it's going to work. But they're changing it constantly. So it's
Totally.
like really hard for companies to plan. I think that nobody cares what I think about tariffs, but like, or the government certainly doesn't care. But my advice is, to the extent you do care, get it over with quickly. Like get to the new normal so people can start to set up their supply chain. But if it's changing every week, it doesn't make you move your jobs to the US. It makes you sit here and go, I'll just figure out, I got to wait a while.
Yeah, and for now, there's just less shipments coming in and out.
Volumes are fine, honestly. Like, I don't know. I haven't studied
Wouldn't
that
you
much.
expect volumes to be down?
Flexport volumes are up. Market volumes are down a tiny bit. We've been taking market share, but it's definitely a more difficult environment than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 10 years ago, certainly. The other big factor, I mean, the tariffs are going to have a real impact. Certain companies will fail. And I can't predict which ones, but companies, you're seeing companies get hit with, like, in some cases, a 50% increase in their duty.
Like who?
Well, I can't call out specific companies, but like people, if your product has a lot of steel in it, a lot of aluminum or steel, and it's coming from China, and you can't move the manufacturing, and there are reasons why China is the best in making consumer electronics, and like if it's both electronic and has a lot of metal, like it's probably going to keep coming from China, and those duties. So then it becomes a big open question: is your product so in demand that people will just buy it even when it costs? Doesn't mean it costs 50% more. It'll probably cost 20 to 30% more, because remember that's on the wholesale cost. You will pass that all through, but it doesn't increase the whole price of the goods, just the cost of the wholesale cost. So, okay, you've increased 30%. Do customers still buy your product? Like, we'll find out. And then there's a lot of companies, some apparel companies that I've talked to, that most apparel has moved out of China long ago, because China has a higher labor cost. Like, good for them. They're paying their people more. But if you're just looking for cheap labor, like China's not been the place to go for a long time. But the apparel companies that haven't moved is largely because it's either more intricate. China's better at manufacturing, so like higher quality of like intricacy of, maybe not higher quality fabrics that could be made in lots of places, but the intricacy of the design, the patterns, all these things. And if you have like small batch, you're only making like 100 of each item, and you've got some, that's hard to move, because you go to some new supplier who doesn't know you and you tell them,
Totally,
I want you to just make 100 of these things. They're like, screw off. Like, I don't need your business. Whereas if you've been working in China for a long time, they know you, they know you'll order lots and lots of items. They're happy with, even though you're a pain in the ass customer, they like you, you've built a relationship. So those companies, now your end customer, if your stuff becomes more important because of duties, maybe your end customer doesn't care that much. Like, am I going to spend a lot more for the more intricate design thing, or this one's now cheaper relative? So those companies are going to get hit. And then there was the whole section of duty-free shipping. If it's less than $800, you don't owe any customs duties. And that rule is changing very soon.
This is the de minimis.
De minimis, it's called. So under $800.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So if your product is worth less than $800 per item, and it's already been sold to a final consumer, and it's being delivered all the way to the end consumer on that shipment, rather than coming to a U.S. warehouse, then there's no duty owed under U.S. customs regulations. It used to be $250. Obama raised it to $800. That tells you how fast things have changed. When Obama was president, we wanted to promote more trade, liberalize customs, and they increased that threshold from $250 to $800. So that is, the Trump administration announced that that's going away. They killed that program if the goods are coming from China. And then a few days later, they brought it back. However, it's very clear it's actually going away. What I understand is they had to bring it back because the customs technology systems weren't ready to turn it off. It takes time to make it so you can't clear the shipment,
right?
And set up the tech. That's my understanding. I'm not certain about that, but that's my understanding. So we do know yesterday the customs technology system got updated with a new error code that said de minimis country not allowed, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which there's never been any country that was banned from de minimis before. Before it was just applied everywhere. So it's very clear they have now made the technology update. So any day now, I would predict.
And this is for the rationale for this would be that there was a bunch of like Shane and how do you pronounce it?
Shane, yeah.
Yeah,
Shane.
yeah. Like a bunch of these Chinese.
They're using that. Those companies use it.
These B2C Chinese
A
clothing
lot of American
companies
though too. Most, it's not most, but it's 30 to 40% of all the top Shopify merchants, especially in the apparel sector, are using this. Shipping from Mexico, doing fulfillment out of Mexico.
Yep.
So you bring it from China. Usually it actually comes to a U.S. port, L.A. You ship it what's called in bond, so it doesn't clear U.S. customs and pay duties. It goes from L.A. straight to Mexico.
Yep.
Usually like transit through the country. Goes to Tijuana, gets loaded in a fulfillment center, and then when you buy something, it ships from Tijuana to your house, one item at a time. And then there's no customs duty. So that's going away if the goods are made in China. Right now, it looks like it's impossible to predict. Is that going to go away if it's made in Vietnam, Malaysia, whatever? We don't know. So that comes back to that original thing, is like some certainty would be nice, because businesses can operate. Should be a level playing field. It applies to you. It applies to me.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go compete. But if you don't know what's going to happen, it's just like, you're kind of a little bit paralyzed.
Yep. My other question was the Panama Canal.
Oh, okay.
What the hell's going on there?
Well, we have Panama and the Suez Canal are both kind of screwed up right now.
Why are they important? Can we start with that?
Oh, I mean, it's just a huge percentage of global trade flows through these things. I think Panama, you really going around the tip of South America is like not safe. I mean, it's the waves are crazy down there in Strait of Magellan, so they don't really do that. So Panama Canal is just vital. You would just go the long way around the Earth the other way. So when the Panama Canal gets congested, they just go, because if you can map these things on Google Earth and see what's the fastest way to get around, and you have a choice. Like there is a place where it's equidistant between going. If you're going to the east coast of the U.S., you can either cross the Pacific, go through the Panama Canal and up, or you can go through the Suez, through the Mediterranean, and across the Atlantic to the east coast. Either of those works. And it's just a matter of cost, transit time, et cetera. So the Panama Canal has been operating at about 2/3 capacity for the last few years, and they're blaming a drought. I'm starting to...
2/3 capacity of container shipping.
Number of ships or the number of containers that can go through it. So, yeah, the number of containers that should be able to pass through in a given year. It's only operating at about 2/3 of its potential capacity. And those, by the way, those two canals are very different from one another. The Panama Canal runs on fresh water, and it has locks. So you go up, like it fills up, it floats your ship up a level. You go through a few locks, you cross the country of Panama, then you go back down the other side. The Suez Canal is sea level. There's no locks. It's just the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea are just connected. The water just flows right between the two. So they're very different engineering wise. The Panama Canal runs on fresh water. And so it hasn't had, what they're saying, the reason it's operating at lower capacity, it hasn't had enough fresh water to operate at its full capacity. And they are blaming a drought. They're saying it's...
Who's they?
The Panama Canal Authority.
Which is who?
The government of Panama owns the Panama Canal. Well, yeah, this is what Trump wants to get back, right?
But the government of Panama owns it.
Jimmy Carter gave it back to them. Yeah, it used to be owned by the U.S. government. In fact, the Panama Canal zone used to be U.S. sovereign territory, the same until Jimmy Carter gave it back, like right around the time I was born. It used to be territory like Puerto Rico or something. It was part of the United States of America. And Carter gave it back to him for $1. Trump's pissed about that. He wants it back. He might evade it. We'll see. And so anyways, the Panama Canal Authority owns it. All the revenue from it goes into Panama has a sovereign wealth fund actually, and it comes from that, and they buy U.S. stocks with their. I talked to the guy who runs it. They want everyone to know they proud investors in America with the revenue, so it's not all going to Panama. What was I saying? Oh, so it runs off fresh water.
Yeah, they're saying there's a drought.
They're saying there's a drought.
Do you not? Why are you saying they're saying? Is that not true?
I'm still learning. Okay, I'm studying this. It's a very odd coincidence. So Panama Canal they expanded and widened the canal in 2015, and I think it went live in 2016 to make it wide enough for wider ships to go through. And it was basically right after that they didn't have enough fresh water. And like, what happens when you widen the canal? Like more fresh water flows out every time, and so. the timing of it all is a little suspect to me. When I Google it, I'm still studying, okay, and this is me being conspiracy theory hat on, but when I search for like information about the drought, it's always the Panama Canal Authority. I never find any articles about a drought in Panama,
Right.
unless they're talking about the canal.
Right.
So I'm going down there in June. I've never been to the Panama Canal before, so I'm going to go down and talk to
Investigate.
some locals, check them, see if I can meet like a meteorologist and find out if it's really a drought. I'm sure there's, hey, if you're out there, help me, correct me, tell me I'm an idiot, find me some data on the Panama weather setup. I got to talk to the climate corp
What
guys
would
or
they?
whatever.
Why would they? What is there if it's not a drought?
Yeah.
What is their incentive if they're making the money? Wouldn't
Well,
they want?
if you royally screw up engineering for a multi-billion-dollar project and you didn't build it with the right amount of fresh water, and your country is making one third less revenue on its primary
embarrassing.
source of revenue, you'd be like, I might lose my job here. Let me, point to this other thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's a drought. When I should do more homework on this before I go spreading conspiracy theories. But the one thing I did find was like this guy who has a home weather station in Panama in his house. It's been like Google's just not been a good source for this because it keeps pointing me back to the Panama Canal Authority. So again, some autistic person out there needs to help me find the data. But what I did find was this home weather station, and there's been more rain than ever in the last couple of years. And he's got like 15 years worth of data on his little like weather on his backyard kind of weather collector thing. And like, so I have my strong suspicion, but no real evidence yet besides that one data point. I'm sure there's good data on weather in Panama. I'm very busy. I haven't spent a lot of time on this.
And what is Trump's incentive here? Like, do you think it's the money, or do you think it's the power that comes with controlling?
Oh, well, for the U.S. Navy, the control of the Panama Canal is vital. It allows us to have one Navy that serves both oceans and be able to move very quickly. So if there was some incident in East Asia and our Navy needed to respond, they can get the biggest U.S. naval bases are in San Diego. Great, no problem. Just sail right over. If you're in Norfolk and you can't go through the Panama Canal, you got to go all the way around.
Right.
That's going to cost you a few weeks, which in a wartime situation is vital. So U.S. has like vital national security interests in the canal. So I think it's much more national security military than it is anything to do with money.
Okay. And you think the same for Suez?
Suez, our interests are much less important. U.S. interest in the Suez is like way less important.
Makes sense.
We just don't use it that much.
Yeah, okay.
Now, the U.S. military, yes, like we're always in and out of the Middle East and moving the fleet around. It matters much less from a cargo standpoint. And frankly, it's so far removed. Like Europe should be way more incentivized to care about the Suez. Like, fix it. Right now, the Yemen, the terrorists in Yemen have made it not possible for container ships to go through the Suez for the last year and a half.
Like at all?
Yeah, since December of 23, so almost a year and a half. So the Suez is cut off for container shipping, and the U.S. military under Biden tried to do something. Right now, we're actively bombing Yemen as of a few days ago. The Trump administration is up the ante. But my view, I mean, again, who cares what I think? But I feel like the Europeans should be. This is like hugely disruptive for their economy, and China too. Actually, China needs the free flow of goods to be cheap from China to Europe, and so if this has dramatically increased the cost of having to go around, it's reduced the supply of container shipping, which sends the price to the moon. So it certainly is that to me, the Panama one, I'm just being kind of a fun conspiracy theorist, though. This one is very much like, I think one of the biggest stories in the world that gets talked about. Like certainly the U.S. front page news, we're bombing Yemen, but it's a fundamental thing. Like if this tiny little ragtag group in Yemen, country that most people can't point to on a map, can cut off all of 30% of global trade flowing through it, and the U.S. military can't do anything about it, and can't or won't, that is like a complete change in the order of the balance of power, and threatens to be like the end of globalization, or at least like foretells that as a possible outcome here. Is like, if we can't, globalization depends on the U.S. Navy providing free maritime, free navigation. You can go anyone can go anywhere. You can call at any port. You don't need to have guns on your ship like we used to in the old days of like East India Company merchantmen. So it's definitely something to watch. Like there's going to be a poly market on now. You're going to have like gambling markets too to say, will the container shipping traffic be back? I think there's one now live. What month will it start to come back to normal going through the Suez? So you can bet on this. Like, what is the future of globalization? And I don't know. I don't want to see war. Obviously, I'm a man of peace, but on some level, we sort of like that is the contract that the U.S. Navy has set out, and we don't seem to care as much. Like Trump's kind of like stepping up the rhetoric or actually the action, but I don't know that you can solve this with airstrikes. Like you might need boots on the ground, and nobody wants to see the United States military invade another country in the Middle East with like boots on the ground. So it's it's a little bit ugly.
Yeah. Crazy. And like even crazier that you like kind of have to.
This screwed up our year last year. Yeah. Because
what's this?
The Yemen, the terrorists, because they when the ships have to go around, it's effectively reduction of shipping capacity of about 12%. It takes much longer to go around. So the same ship carries about 12% fewer containers per year going around Africa than going through the Suez. So you've reduced the number of containers that can be moved every year. And we had demand. Last year we could have shipped 2.2. We had demand from customers for more than 2x the number of containers that we could actually get space for. And because
of the Suez.
Yeah, and we had to turn down business. Like we'd be moving twice as much volume. It really hurt we're like growth company trying to set ourselves up for public IPO and all these things. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. It really, and the customers are pissed. I mean, the price of freight went to the moon. Financially, we did okay because the price of freight went up, but we're not trying to make money short term. We're trying to take market share.
And at some point, do you feel like, you have to go Coinbase and like develop an arm of the company that is very politically active because it's so much in your business interests?
I don't know. Thankfully, we're not under like assault like Coinbase from a regulatory perspective. Like I think there's a lot of regulations that we don't like, but I think that like tariffs, I'm anti-tariff, for example. But so is everybody else. I'm not convinced that nobody's going to care because I hire someone. None of them are like targeted at me, and they're not really targeted at our industry per se. No one cares like about that. We're also not a test case. Coinbase might be, you could on some level call it a test case. Like, is this a commodity? Is this a security?
Yeah.
Uber was a test case. Like, should you be allowed to operate a taxi without a medallion? Or Airbnb? Should you be able to operate a hotel out of your living room? Like, these were, on some level, their test case. And they have to push the law. They have to hire big regulatory affairs groups and prove that, hey, this new technology, this new way of working is dramatically better. It's worth it. We're not like that. Like we're subject to more regulations than all those guys combined, probably. The borders obviously are heavily regulated for all kinds of good reasons. But like none of which I might disagree with some of them, but none of which am I willing to challenge or my business doesn't depend on testing any of those laws.
Yeah.
Like we're very happy to comply with whatever the rules are. So there's not a single rule other than like, I'd like there to be free trade and few of these things. Like, I don't see rules that are like, oh, I want to go spend a bunch of money lobbying. And those ones, no one's going to listen to us anyways.
Yeah. What were you going to say you considered?
Well, for a minute, we had a team in DC that was doing some lobbying, but like when looking at costs, I'm like, they're good people, but I don't have an agenda for them.
Totally.
Like, what do I want? I don't know. Like monetary, it's just like
totally
make good people. I'm not, but it was a waste of money for us at that time. We need more clarity of like, go try to achieve this.
Totally.
So we haven't had that.
Do you have ambitions to go public?
Yeah, but not a timeline.
Does I don't care about the timeline, but like, does taking a business with this amount of unpredictability, like, does that scare the crap out of you going public?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I don't know if it scares me. It might not be the right. We'll see how public.
It's refreshing, by the way, to hear you say like, yeah, I want to go public.
Yeah, we want to go public. I think we should be a big independent public company. The global logistics is certainly a big enough market, and most of our competitors are public companies.
Yep.
In the freight business. They get through it. A lot of them don't provide any guidance to Wall Street though. They just say, "Hey, we don't know what's going to happen." So that takes that takes probably a lot of years of results and build trust that you're like, cool, I'll just trust these guys. So I'm not sure how to get that level of trust with the street. I'm less worried about that. I mean, I think we just go put up results and year after year and just execute well, we'll be fine. It's more interesting to see, like, I think we want to be really ambitious, and a bunch of our competitors like pay out all of their earnings as dividends every year. Like, that's not the shareholder base I'm looking for. Like, there's the coolest thing about Flexport as we get towards throwing off cash towards the end of the year is just like, man, I've got an infinite number of awesome high return on invested capital things to go and do, whether it's global expansion or new products, keep building more tech. We have offices in 15 countries, but like the world's much bigger than that. Like we should be. So yeah, global expansion. There's just a million cool things that we can do. And how do I get the right shareholder base that's like wants to see that rather than just free cash? These things all take time to mature, and there's a J curve on the investment. So building that, our private investors love what we're doing and love they're patient. So they're not pushing us to go public. So it's how do you build that? I don't know. We want to be also a public company. Like, you read the book, The Outsiders?
No.
It's a great book about like public company, the best performing public CEOs as measured by their share price relative to their industry's index.
Okay.
Over like long term. And they all had one thing in common, which was they were really, really good at knowing the actual value of their share price, what it should be versus what it was. And if it was overvalued, they would issue stock and do acquisitions. And if it was undervalued, they would buy back stock. It wasn't a single formula. It was like the one thing you could point to is like, actually, they just have their bet. They were really good at issuing stock when the price was high.
They're just like hyper self-aware.
Yeah, like I think had their own good model for what their valuation should be. But to play that game, you got to be throwing off a lot of cash. And then if Wall Street doesn't like the price and it goes down, if I'm making a lot of money, like you look at your portfolio of return on invested capital, and one of them might be buy our own shares if it goes way down. But you can't play that game if you're losing money, right? So
totally,
you want to be like making hundreds of millions and billions of free cash flow, and then of course you just go public, and who cares about the gyrations of the stock in the short term?
Well, look, I'm just thrilled we got to do this. Really fun.
Yeah, it's a great place to end. We're going to be making billions of dollars of free cash flow.
Perfect. Are you hiring?
We are a little bit. We're more like there's a few select roles. You can check it out at flexport.com/careers.
Cool. When you hear the word grit, what do you think of?
It's like classic entrepreneurship, right? It's like never give up, fight through all the friction. There's friction is inevitable in business. It's the thing that makes easy things hard and the hard things impossible. So you like the only way to overcome it is like grit, right? Just like push through.
Ryan Peterson, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Appreciate it. That's it for now. If you liked the episode, please leave us a review and check back every Monday for a new guest, or go back into the archives where we've done over 200 episodes. This podcast is a Kleiner Perkins production. I'm Jubin. Thanks for listening.